Hey Rex, you picked the you picked the worst possible time to do something like that. I guess I have to do something else now. You picked the sorting moment. Wow, thank you. Let's see. What should I do? Maybe try the the next push. So earlier I did the 125 and 126. So it's time for me to do 127. I mean, what worse than watching whatever you were doing? Well, what I was doing is all the so normally I have a really bad hoarding issue, right? But for every yellow that as I used previously, when I start running out, what I would do is I would convert to 100. Thank you for the follows, by the way. So I would convert them, right? I know that you'll have a lot of convert in the, you don't even have to convert in the future anyway, but that's one part of it. The other part of it are some really funny names that I get across, and just now I did like a 4 minute mousing them over as suggested from my friend to make a clip of it instead of keeping it so that I have actually a stash space, so a tab of it. And so I have these funny tokens like followers sense D token and then final token. And then something like just recently, I think I posted this in several places. Like this helmet named Hearthstone. You're in the wrong game, pal. Like, I mean, the randomizer is pretty funny. It just pretty funny. And then, for example, another item that I saw. I mean, this doesn't have a significance of the wand itself, but like imagine like how people in back in WoW days where they would link their Thunder Fury or link a weapon or link an item that has a funny name and like instead of saying what is this bloody whisper coming towards me or like why did you whisper me something 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 and that's a weird bloody whisper, something like that. And then some of my other items include because this season I started with Fan of Knives in the beginning, and so over time I had these like shoulders with Fan of Knives boost. I mean, at that time it's not like a big deal or anything, but normally when you have gear like Sentry build and stuff, right? So you have Sentry in your skills and so on, right? So in the same case, while leveling, I saw Phantom Knives at level 32 with EXP gain. Um, Another pair of shoulders that actually popped up, I think later, slightly later. I got pretty lucky spotting this one, and it had the cooldown and Phantom Knives and the lower level requirement. So that was interesting. And then a chest piece with Phantom Knives 14%, just like you would with Max Discipline. And so this was level 46, but before that, I already had a 13% Phantom Knives with two sockets and pretty high, I mean, medium dex. But anyway, this is just like talking about the yellows, and then this is the yellow that I used for my level 48 T6 when we got the T6, this one. And then this is my first level 70 helmet that was usable because it had, certain stats. And then just now my friend said that this is a funny name too for being gruesome talon, kind of like assassin weapon names and whatnot. Even though this is a quiver, I I actually kept this for two reasons. One, it has the crit chance and the impale. But the other part of it was actually that I was keeping like yellow items to eventually instead of in the blacksmith normally say, for example, even these tokens, if they weren't uniquely named, right? If you needed the skeleton key, for example, then I wouldn't have to craft three specific scoundrel, well, tokens, right? I can just grab these three, go to the cube, and then upgrade the three rares instead of wasting materials, right? It's kind of it's kind of like that. Like some of my yellows have that purpose, and then other names like Deadly Favor. And then you're wondering why I have three amulets here, for example. Well, this is a vitality a vitality trifecta. You know, in the beginning when I got this while I was uh when I just as I hit 70, I actually saw this mousing over instead of mass salvaging. I moused over and it was a big, boost at the time when I first hit level 70 at the time. So that was the reason I kept this one. And then over time, as I was um, mousing over certain things on the ground before picking them up, and you would say, why do I mouse over rare amulets? Or why would I mouse over stuff? Well, because sometimes instead of picking them up, I would look at the name and understand if it is one box or two box items in the inventory. And why is that? Because if you're just picking up random yellows and you salvage them, sure, if you have a full inventory it's of 30 two-box items, it's just 30, really. So it's not even worth picking. But if you pick one box items based on the names, like over time you'll pick up that, belts have a certain name to it, like Bond might be in it, or like Sash, or like Lash. Certain names come up depending on the type of equipment it is, equipment slot. So it has the names. So at some point you'll recognize the names and understand that you should pick up certain names because they are one box items. So when you pick up enough one box items in a run, in the Nephilim Rift run, then you would actually gain, you know, that little bit more per yellows instead of just 30 for two box items. But anyway, these two, I saw them with elemental trifecta basically. Like, it's just imagine if I change the dexterity here to something. Obviously, it doesn't have the same crit because it's a different crit value. And then here, this would be funny because normally playing God DH, I want elemental trifecta on my Squirts necklace, but I somehow randomly saw this rare amulet performing better than a Squirts necklace would roll when I want a Squirts necklace to be good, right? So stuff like that is just, and then I just eliminated half to make space. Um, yeah. So that was what I was doing, and I'm totally stunned. Obviously, I just you know got taken out a bunch of you know what you welcomed here, but I guess I can try for one 127. So I was just sorting a tab of like from the beginning, and finally I have mats to convert from one to the other to rebalance them a little bit because I you'll easily run short of crystals all the time, especially if you're playing a build that has captain's belts. Like if you craft captain's belts and you don't need to gamble from Kadala belts, just like at the one box issue. If you have full empty inventory space, you gamble belts, for example, that because you need belts outside of Captain Crimson's builds, right? Then you'll have 60 or whatever, yeah, 60 belts. So you'll get 60 crystals per set of your three runs gamble of belts. Then it's better than two box items of yellows because you only get, you know, three columns, three rows of two box items each, which nets you 30, right? Or something like that. Anyway, it's not definitely not 60. So basically I go into the one box value in terms of that one. And then obviously if you just think about, bounties, if you love bounties, then obviously bounties is a better method, but I don't like bounties personally. So my materials and my bounty mats are like bad, but I recently worked on um reforging my traveler's pledges. I recently reforged some shoulders because I've been working on shoulders, and so my bounty mats are actually relatively low and uneven now. So anyway, I wish I was solo self-found. No, I'm not solo self-found, but I actually started out playing more God DH. I played more God DH than the Marauder. I only recently did more Marauder. So uh here's the I I actually this season I actually got a ninth series satchel that's actually worth equipping. Normally I always have ninth satchel in my cube, but this was the first iteration of my God DH having this. So normally, because of how the ninth series satchel rolls, it's such a big range, right? So for any big range items, you would usually cube it, right? But I haven't gotten a decent Dawn. I will show the other armory save that I got for a Dawn, but I've been trolled this season a lot, so I haven't gotten like the I like better Dawns, like the 63 pluses. I haven't gotten an ancient one of any of that. But I'm not solo. What happened to the? Oh, this is an old save. That's why. This is the updated save. Yeah, with the elemental trifecta. This season actually I it took me a while before I got this, and that was the old save. That's why when I moused over the amulet, I was like, that's not the amulet I'm using, because this is the version that I'm currently running from God DH, and I got trolled really hard here with the this is my probably like a fifth ancient dawn. This season I've only gotten like five or six at most ancient dawns, and all the good 10 CDRs were like 55% or it's non-ancient. And my best dawn was a 6510 non-ancient after using the cube reforge. So I actually did cube reforge on items that I know I want to spend on instead of just spending for every slot. I actually have a purpose for the bounty mats. The quote rarer or harder to roll items, so like Traveler's Pledge, Squid's Necklace, those are the ones that I would pick to choose to reforge. But yeah, so this is not great at all because this makes me need to use a cooldown gloves to make back the to offset the 61-6. Ideally, you want like 63-9 or 63-8 or something like that minimum, such that you don't need to have cooldown on gloves and stuff. And because the other thing about your question about are you solo? Well, there's one thing I actually do which I don't play with is I don't use numlock. The only time I ever used numlock um was probably a Z monk, and if after I play like 6 to 8 hours straight, which I hardly ever do now. I used to played Diablo much longer per day, but now I don't. But the reason for why I have also a weird cooldown requirement per se is not only because of 61-6, but also because if you manually press Vengeance, you want to have that 1.5 second window in case when my muscle memory or your muscle memory or your fingers are pressing the other buttons, and then so when I do this build, right, the God DH build, you press Hungering Arrows and then Smoke Screen and whatever. So you have that 1 1 1 2 3 rhythm, but because of this 61 6, when you're pressing the 1 1 1 1 2 3 1 1 1 1 2 3 rhythm, that rhythm might be thrown off by that small window of 1.5 seconds or half a second, depending on what your rolls are, that isn't perfect. So even though Vengeance uptime is 100% at, say, 37%, right? We want 37% minimum. And so if you have 37% minimum, you're also guaranteeing that you press it on cue. So when I say on cue, it has to be like 99% foolproof to where you won't miss it, such that you actually have perma vengeance, right? And since I don't play with numlock, I have to have that other extra window of like, so my extra window is 38.3. So every season that I play God DH, I have to have 38.3 as a minimum, depending on what my Dawn gives me, whether I put it in the cube or on myself. I always want um minimum 38.3. So when this 61 6, obviously I can't live without gloves without CDR. But if let's say the Dawn was good, then this 38.7 is still fine. For me, my personal playstyle, I cannot play below 8.3 because it throws my rhythm off. Every time I have my muscle memory rhythm of 1 1 1 2 3 or whatever, when I hit the three, by the time I hit the threes in that rhythm of, just like when you're playing your guitar or something like that, for a specific song, you have the verses, right? Each verse or chorus timing, by the time you reach from one from the beginning word of the first line to the last word of a verse, right? Then you get thrown off because, or like you wouldn't want to get thrown off because then you wouldn't match up to the song, and then you would be off key or off note and whatever, right? So that 38.3 is like my minimum of 100% uptime vengeance, for example. So that's something that, um and personally, so all this explanation, what does this mean? So, and who I am, right? I am a gear checker since mid vanilla. I've helped people do foundational checks for not necessarily end game, because I'm still always learning newer things. Just like the Marauder build, I actually play very little Marauder builds. I've only touched on it much more this season. I didn't actually work on it um, like the last time around, or even like early when seasons first started or whatever. That Marauder was up there before it went downhill for like the longest of time before the rework and so on and so on. So I'm a gear checker. I like to uh talk about like uh shifting of stats, and so that's where the cooldown thing came in and so on. So uh I love gear checking, and I love helping other people out. But I generally play more group play with, you know only the people that I know, or I make new friends, and then I play with them uh, in a group. But because I don't necessarily play meta stuff, outside of this Marauder thing or back in season 23 when I played Firebirds, uh, if I don't play full meta, and what I mean by full meta has two meanings. One is the build, and two is um the skill selection. So you can see here my God DH has Vault, and I have my own reasonings as well. And one reasoning that you can say, well, why do you have Vault? Well, let's say I'm helping other people, not just gear checking, but helping newer players that I have to do GR, like say GR 90 or 85 or whatever they feel comfortable with, because some people don't like to stand at the door, right? When like when they leech, they want to follow you and stuff, and see if they can handle it, right? They want to play the game. They don't just want to get carried. And obviously you'll carry, but so what does Vault do for a God DH? Well, for one, in terms of being considerate, so there's Witch Doctor and Necromancer, right? If they are just starting out and they finally got their gear and they but you don't want to just ditch them or something like that, what you do with Vault is that because the Witch Doctor and Necro needs to have their Soul Harvest or Bone Armor, respectively, if the first set of monsters are not so crazy damage, then you can just vault ahead first and let the newer player see what they can handle with the fact that they need to pre-buff themselves with the Soul Harvest and the Bone Armor, right? So that when it comes to the time when they actually see something deadly, they have that pre-existing pre-buff going. So vaulting is not so selfish to where I'm strafing everything down as a god DH. So I'm not just one-shotting things. I mean, it's good that, if he wants to follow everything is dead, it's fine, but you're not letting him like even learn anything whatsoever. And in fact, if he wants to learn, I guess you have to ditch him or he has to ditch you helping him, so to speak. So if you want to like play with certain people don't like to sit at the door, but you also don't want him to keep dying as he follows you if it's something higher or if he's actually wants some challenge, right? That he can actually play the Witch Doctor or Necro if that's what they like to play, a class. They don't have to play the classes that are always quote in the meta as well. So Vault has that. The other part is when your hatred gets super low, you don't have to like stop. Vault can also mean for vaulting into Oculus rings, um, vaulting for the walls, and then the biggest one, well, biggest two parts. There's two parts to it, depending on the situation of your pushes. Now, vaulting prevents you from overstaying. What I mean by overstaying is that your density cluster your density is already dying out, and you're left with an elite that's still half health or like half health or whatever. So you don't have that density for Valas, right? Then you end up needing to pull anyway. So you get tempted that you're still strafing for damage. You get tempted to overstay, and you also get tempted to stay where they are. Like when you normally fight, when you normally fight the first engage, you you don't feel the need to be moving them forward in your direction that you're going to the next floor. So as a god DH, sometimes as you go higher in GR, you also want to be pulling things in a forward motion such that you don't just stay there fighting that elite for 2 minutes, right? You want to pull density either from ahead or you want to bring the elite with you if you can handle it. Of course, you can say COE would have killed it already. Well, what if you didn't kill it already? Well, then you can drag it along, and vaulting prevents you to think that you're dealing damage, right? So vaulting gives you that you need to move on, you need to move on. So it gives you a sense of knowing when you should stay and when you should give up if you think that you're gonna lose the time um overstaying. And then the next one is where you make a bigger play. So normally, like even say the Marauder build, right, where you set up certain positions and it's like a big map and you want to have a central location to bring everything to your sentries, or else you have to rebuild your turret defense, so to speak, right? You don't want to rebuild. Now, in terms of God DH, what vaulting does is you can vault ahead after you see like a conduit. Let's say you got a central conduit on a festering. You can vault around everywhere. I know you're losing damage to whatever you're pulling, but if you're strafing and you're killing stuff already with your high damage, you're not actually pulling back to the central point of the conduit. You're actually killing stuff already in existing as you're pulling if you're that strong, right? So vaulting gives you more of the sense that you're going to be pulling things back to the central location where you prepared stuff for the bigger play of the conduit to kill, like, say, a 4 elite or a 6 elite pack. And because I actually like to play with Elusive Ring more than COE because I like a screen of chaos. So when you have a screen of chaos, Elusive Ring and Valas and everything like that, and a bigger play with Vault to pull stuff from every direction on a good map, on an ideal map, then vaulting allows you to keep certain clusters of density for the elites that you want to actually make use of Valas, right? Otherwise, you would just use straight damage and just kill whatever, really. You don't even have to make the bigger play necessarily. So, Vault has its purpose, and after the bigger play, right? After the bigger play, what if you pulled like almost half of the map from the forward? Hey, Marsh. So, what if you pulled a lot of the stuff towards from the exit back from near the exit back towards the conduit or back towards the shield pylon, right? Then on the way on the way forward, meaning that you're going to the next floor now because you've cleaned it all out. Now you're strafing with nothing to hit. Well, almost nothing. If you have stragglers, then sure, you should still be able to maintain your hatred. But let's say you actually killed or pulled everything or close to everything between the conduit or shield pylon and the exit, right? There's nothing really beneficial anymore for your strafing. So then you begin to strafe and start losing hatred because you have no monsters to hit, no specific targets. Then halfway through the all that big play, you're losing time ref- doing this and then strafe again. So you lose that in between. So the vaulting, while having also preparation focused mind, it regenerates for your vaults to get to the next floor after the big play pulling backwards because now your forward has nothing. So vault has a lot of depth towards it, and it's not my originality about the vault. I believe back in PTR 2.6.9 when the God DH first uh, popped up, is when Vault was in there for like a brief, like a day or two, and then it disappeared because Drifting Shadows was like really, really strong. But then it was also countered by Rocket Storm because of how the rockets also proc different things and and vengeance, and then you have the ballistics and version of passives and whatnot. So it it changed a lot of the gameplay to where you don't have the vault. But funny enough, why I emphasize so much on vaulting is that the Marauders, right? The Marauder now is back to the vaulting. So now, unless you've played a lot of Unhallowed Essence or Shadow Impale or the Donata version of doing your bounties and whatnot, or swap in whatever the case may be, right? That you hardly play Vault like a lot more than God DH. So now you're like so used to strafing on the God DH for most of the time, but then you haven't touched vaulting in a long time. So in order to bring yourself back to understanding the vaulting gameplay, then causes a lot of issues. But if you make it consistent to where vaulting is for almost every build that exists, for the sets that exist, then you wouldn't feel as bad. Now, last season, however, I actually got shifted away from vaulting after I had an ideal Sliver of Terror Soul Shard in the helmet, because when I did have the when I did play the season 25 Soul Shards, I actually used Fan of Knives for real, right? But I don't use Bladed Armor at a time because, like I mentioned earlier, that I don't use numlock, so I have to manually press. Well, which rune do I pick when I played with Sliver of Terra Advantage instead of vaulting? Is pinpoint accuracy. I actually use pinpoint accuracy so that it matches up more between Vengeance and your Wolf Companion last season, so that your on cooldowns are kind of relatively like a rhythm to it. So one is like this this Fan of Knives pinpoint accuracy is like 15 seconds, right? It extends to 15 seconds. Vengeance is around 20 seconds, and then the Wolf is like 30 seconds. So you have like a rhythm to, after reductions or whatever, you have a rhythm to it that you kind of build your Sliver of Terror on cooldown so that you actually take advantage of it. Because if you're manually pressing things, the more downtime you have, the less you're taking advantage of the Sliver of Terror. So you, based on your muscle memory and um, rhythm of key pressing, So yeah, but since I'm there's not Sliver of Terror anymore, for example, I go back to my vaulting, and also because I like elusive. Now, sometimes I will change to COE setup if I need the actual damage. But whenever I play the COE way, though, whenever I play the COE way, though, one issue I have is at the cycle, at the cold damage cycle, for some reason, I take so much damage trying too hard. So I actually lose time and damage because I get procced or I actually die. Uh, and then because for every death, it's not the death, it's not the current death being the issue. It's the next one, meaning that when you revive in a bad situation. So let's say that there's a really hectic two elite packs. Like, so normally you would have just one elite pack, but this time you for some reason spotted two elite packs while strafing. You engaged two, and then they gave you really bad affixes, right? So I'm not gonna say like getting the worst affixes necessarily, but close enough. But now you're doing COE and that you died once. Well, when you get back up, you have to find a good spot. First of all, you have to find a good spot. You have to ramp up a little bit before you strafe, or you can do the other way around, but you also lose damage that way. And then you might be strafing on top of frozen affixes, then you're gonna get procced again and possibly die on the blast if your momentum stacks are not at already around 20, that you actually strafe farther and faster across the patch before they blast. Right? If you're just strafing like this, it's slow, and then you're strafing more within the each distance of each frost patches. So there are things like that. So each death makes the next one when you revive more annoying. So I actually play a totally like different skill bar to, or like having the vault there for several reasons. And yeah, so I guess let me go do the, let me try the, do I have everything correct? That's the thing. Yes. So I guess it's time for me to try the one 127. And once again, thank you Rex for the big raid. I wasn't expecting it. I know this is a long, I did a really long-winded explanation and no gameplay whatsoever. But when I gameplay, I focus, and then either way, I'm not attending to one or the other. So I mean, I have to learn eventually to do both at the same time. But it's kind of like, for example, if you're playing hardcore and you're pushing, you're gonna be focused. Some people are like that when they play their game. So I would rather be more focused on one or the other. So if I'm pushing and I'm ignoring, well, you know why. But anyway, thank you once again. I know that Rex is not watching right this moment, but thank you once again, and I appreciate the follows, Gurry Pilot and Naughty Dog. Not, is that a, is that a wordplay? That's cool. All right, let's give this a go. Probably want. I'm considering not to use this version. I'm like trying to think of which versions I want to play because my downtime is actually still really high. As you can see, my misclick caused a lot of issues there for swapping. Um, that one. Where did I move that to now? Oh, it's right here. I didn't even have to look. Right here. Oh, okay. I'm gonna try a different setup. Slightly different. Alright, here we go. Let's try the 127. Because I just did the 126 earlier. And I have gold, so I can empower. Ugh. Let's see. Let's see about this map. Ugh. Man, I don't like fire shamans. I never did. Fire shamans actually get me tilted, so I hope that I'm not gonna tilt. Is this a dead end? Trying to make use of the Oculus rings. And fire shamans are just annoying in general. Come on. Waller. Oh, this is just not. I'm not strong enough, I guess. And I missed my cue earlier. I fell off from a sentry down to 2 earlier. I saw that. Yeah, I'm still like practicing and learning this build compared to me playing my D8 God DH or something. Why are there fire shamans around now? Well, I overstay and overcommitted now, so I have to kill it. Nice, thank you Oculus Ring for being right below my feet. Dodge those grotesque explosions. Nope. It's not worth it to move on. Shielding as well. Yep. Lots of affixes that just lose time. I mean, at least it's grotesque, so it's not like a heavy armor monster type, but it's pretty brutal. And the fire shamans are just as annoying as ever. Fire chains. Yep. Nope. After I kill this, I'm leaving. Because this attempt isn't isn't working anyway. But I want to see what the next map is, to be honest. Oh, there's a power. Is there anything special? Okay, there's another pack there. Nah, still too much. Alright, next. Well, I mean, I am catching back the time somewhat, but it's still too far. So, okay, conduit. Okay, is there anything else? I know I'm losing time, but I need more than just this one. used all the good stuff now, so I still don't have enough. So I'm missing by probably another 100 paragons and and the ancient shoulders. There's the two elites I needed with the conduit just now. I mean, I tried looking for it, but this is just too far. If it was like, closer and obvious bigger maps, I would have gotten, at least three or more. Oh well. It talked. Yeah, it was definitely a huge surprise, but I was doing something completely, you know, the sorting stuff, right? So it was not it was not as like catchy. And then these two elites were too far from that conduit play. Like they were just too far. If it was near the it was at the where the speed pylon was, it would have been better. Basically in reverse. So anyway, I think he's probably doing his stuff. I don't. I'm not sure if he's. I mean, that's just my opinion. Just gonna see what Rift Guardian. Oh, okay. No, 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 no. I'm just saying. Let's see. Rhyme. Oh man. I guess it's not bad. All I have to do is just not attract too much attention. But how long will I still take? So I need 3 minutes and more uptime. All right. Basically 3 minutes. I need around 3 minutes because the pylon placements were not great. The power was at the end, and then I checked first to the next floor, knowing that there's at least an elite pack closer, which finished I think almost on time to the power pylon ending, and then the conduit was just too far from more than one other elite pack. So that be better? Nope. Let's try again. Huh. But I want to empower. I have the gold. I want to empower. I know I'm not supposed to. Ooh. Okay. This will get pretty interesting. Where the density though? Waller again. Seems fun. I had to try to squeeze more damage in this Oculus Ring because I was gonna finish them off. Yeah. Okay. Right. One, two. There we go. That's a bigger play. But I don't have the damage. I'm gonna lose the time. I mean, I don't know if I could have played more greedy with the conduit. It was a lot of affixes already. Need more time. Ah. Oh. Welcome back, but I still lost time. I could have I think maybe I could have played the conduit a little bit more aggressive with it, but there's just too many elite affixes that were like potentially deadly. Or elite total is a decent conduit to catch spec type. Could have played, a bigger version if I didn't have the death lingering. Do I have some spare? Nah, get it. We can try. Yeah, see, I need 2.5 minutes or something. Yeah, we can do that. Oh yeah, I have to charge my phone. Is that an ancient dawn? Yes, it is. Will it be good? Is the question. Before I. Oh, not ancient. It even has the crowd control on there, but it's not ancient. Oh my gosh! It actually rolled decent. Finally. And now that I finally play Marauder, it finally popped up. It's like, oh, you should be playing that other build that you're better at.